Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great broadcasters of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. If you grew up listening to Capital Region Radio in the 1960s, you remember the constant ratings battle between top 40 mainstays WTRY and WPTR. For teenagers of the era, you either followed the lively ones on the Great 98 WTRY or the good guys of 1540 WPTR. This month, we visit with one of the lively ones who worked with an outstanding lineup of talent and eventually became the program director, which he says changed the direction of what would become an almost 60-year career. Sit back and enjoy the story of the one and only Jay Clark. I used to listen to this guy when I was a teenager saying, I want to do what he's doing on the radio. And I wound up doing it not too long after I listened to him, too. His name is Jay Clark, and his connection to the Capital District goes back to the 60s and WTRY. Thank you, Jay, for your time today.
Well, thank you for asking me and having me.
Well, I don't think the history of the Capital Region radio scene would be complete without someone like you that was involved in the old top 40 wars, of the 60s and 70s in this market. So I'm looking forward to hearing, from your angle how it all went. And you did kind of go on to a little bigger career than just here in the Capital District. And I'm looking forward to talking about all that. So
very cool.
Yeah. And you told me just a moment ago before we started recording that you've just retired.
Yes, indeed. I don't know if it's public or not, but I handed in my resignation Monday.
Wow. Okay. Well, this won't post until around the 10th of October, so I think you're pretty safe. Okay. And by that time, you'll be saying, okay, what am I going to do today? Because, we'll get into all that stuff as we go along. But you're kind of a local boy, right? You're born not too far from here in the Capital District?
Yes, indeed. Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
There you go. So it was this market, if you will, radio and TV market. So, and what kind of led you in the direction of radio and TV? Something that, when you were growing up that led you this direction?
Well, actually, I was headed to become a professional percussionist drummer.
Oh.
And I was pretty good at it, apparently, because in high school, there was a radio show called Teenage Week in Review.
Okay.
On WBRK.
Mm-hmm.
And it was every week, and they had 4 schools that were involved. Well, because I was a musician and I sang, and I had my own group, and I was playing in a couple of other groups, and I was playing drums in the Pittsfield Mass Jazz Band. I was on that show probably every weekend.
Okay.
And then toward the end of the season, the first season, apparently the guy who was running the board became a senior and was going to leave. And so they asked if anybody else might be interested. And I said, yeah, sure. Sounds like it might be fun.
Wow.
So I got the job. And of course, back then you needed a third class operator's license.
Right.
So I got my license and I worked at WBRK off and on through my high school career, along with playing drums and trying to go to school. So,
yeah, well, that's not too bad. But that's kind of backing into it compared to a lot of people that I interview that say, "Oh, I always wanted to be on the radio." You're just kind of lucked into it. Interesting.
You know what? A lot of my career was like that, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I feel the same way. And not just the career I had in broadcasting, but I had a couple of others on the in the meantime, and same thing, just right place, right time, or wrong place, right time, one of those, So
now, as far as TIC is concerned, not TIC, but TRY.
Yeah.
That was a station that I could listen to. Once my parents wouldn't let me go to New York because they were afraid, because that's where I'd had to go to, really do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
I decided, okay, radio is going to be my career. And I made a list of stations that I wanted to work at. And one was WTRY. In fact, it was probably the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Then another one was WPRO in Providence. And
Okay.
the third one was WBZ in Boston.
Well, sure. Yeah.
All those signals I could hear.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from BRK in Pittsfield to WSBS in Great Barrington. From there, started looking for Albany.
Okay.
And it was funny because one of my best friends, and unfortunately he recently passed, Rick Snyder.
Oh, sure. I interviewed Rick a couple of years ago.
Well, it was crazy because they wanted me to be a news guy on WTRY.
Ah.
And I have dyslexia. And so I happen to know that I couldn't read my own, let alone anybody else.
Wow.
And so I turned the job down, and Rick took the job.
Okay.
And one of my worst memories was when I got home after playing a drum gig at Eastover, which is a pretty nice resort in Pittsfield, or was.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn on the radio, and here's Rick doing a DJ show.
Ah.
And I go, oh, my God, I could have done that. I could have done that. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da. But, I kept bugging Lee Gray, who was the program director.
Yep.
And who, finally called me and said, look, we're going to do an all-night show. We're going to have a news guy on there. It'll be the only guys in the Capital District playing top 40 that have news and live personality overnight.
Wow.
So that's where I was. And I was the overnight guy.
All right.
For a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I learned my profession.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Which in today's radio, there's no such thing anymore. There's no place to break in the way most of us did with the overnight shift.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of, or part of the unfortunate part of our business now.
Right.
But the reality here is that it was a great crew. Lee Gray was the program director. I learned from him how not to be a manager of people.
Okay.
But I also learned from him how to promote a radio station and become number one in a radio war.
Nice.
Because he was probably the best I've ever worked with from the standpoint of knowing what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another guy by the name of Ralph Keever who nobody would have known, but we actually had a promotion director at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I just, when I got there, I just wanted to learn everything. And so I hung around with Ralph Keever and Lee, because I was on the air, I had to go to all those promotions.
Sure.
And I learned that part of the business, which I think was very important. And I learned not to be abusive toward talent at that point in time, too, because Lee was sort of that way. He wasn't the only programmer like that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, at that point, a lot of these guys were, because nobody had real training in management.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They were just people off the street, normally salespeople, who, worked their way up. There was a guy with the name of Art Simmers. We used to call him Crazy Art.
I remember the name. Yep.
He was the general manager.
Right.
And, so I hung around with Keever to find out about promotions. And then the guy that taught me how to do commercials, and commercial production was the midday guy, Ed Riley.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that. Wow.
And he spent a lot of time with me because I basically asked him. I said,
nice.
I come from Great Barrington. Well, what do I do? And I can remember him going through copy, having me recorded, and me recorded again, and again. But he was a wonderful teacher and a wonderful person. The other interesting thing that happened to me, there were two. One, the day that I got there, was going to go on the air, I still had what we call a Berkshire A.
Ah.
The Berkshire A went through my nose. A, J. So my real name was and is LaPlante.
Oh, boy.
LaPlante. And so it's J. LaPlante. And I remember Lee looking at me and then looking at the morning guy, Bob Connell, and saying, "What's your middle name?" This is 5 minutes before I go on the air.
Oh, wow.
What's your middle name, Bob? He says, "Clark." He pointed to me. He said, "You're Jay Clark."
I'll be darned. Isn't
said,
that
"What?"
crazy?
So
Isn't
I had to
that
write it
crazy?
down.
Yeah. Now, yeah, exactly. I was going to say, did you remember that for, when you open the
Well,
mic?
I had a big sign that said J. Clark on it.
Wow.
And the other thing I learned doing the all night show was to be myself.
Mm,
And, when I first got there, I wanted to be a top 40 jock.
yep.
And my favorite was Bruce Bradley, who was over at WBZ.
Okay.
You see Brucey Bradley on WBZ, he was really good.
Uh-huh.
And so I imitated him.
Sure.
And he heard me one night, and we had this radio war. I remember there was a song called Dirty Water, and I used to talk about that being Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he'd talk about me. It was great.
That's
Because I could hear
crazy.
him going in.
Yeah. If you listen to my early air checks, the same thing happens. My first year and a half, maybe 2 years on the radio, I'm not me. And I had more than one person say to me in the studio, I'd get off mic and I'd turn around to talk to them. What are you doing? Why aren't you got a great, regular voice? What are you doing? And I just didn't listen to them. I thought that's what you had to do to be a top 40 disc jockey, And it wasn't
That's
until
exactly right.
it wasn't until my second semester of college that you finally hear me becoming me. And so we all went through it, sure.
It was interesting because Crazy Art, they would bring me down to, let's say I did middays there for a while.
KHits. Hey, weatherman says variable cloudiness, continued warm and humid Friday, mostly cloudy in Capital Land. I have 78 degrees. The annual flea market, sponsored by the Exchange Club of Chatham, will be held on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Chatham Fairgrounds. From WTRY, that's what's happening.
TRY, it's number one.
That is number one in the WTRY Big Sound Survey, too. Don't forget, though, everything changes tomorrow afternoon with Rick Bennett. You'll be listening to the Ricker because he's going to turn you on and count down the Big Sound Survey. WTRY J. Clark Showtime is now 11:23.
For summer's shift to Pfeiffer's. Tuesday night, July 22nd at 8 o'clock. Sensational talent at Tanglewood. Why miss it?
Sounds to me like that's going to be a heavy, heavy show. You might make it out there right now in cooperation with the Mohawk Hudson River Humane Society shelter in Menands. WTRY presents Adopt a Dog. An English sheepdog mixed named Snoopy this time. Snoopy is black and white, a male 2.5 years old. Snoopy is housebroken, good with the kids, and has had all of his shots. And if you'd like Snoopy around your house, why, you just stop by the Mohawk Hudson River Humane Society shelter in Menands and adopt a dog. We'll have blues action for you, Spanky McFarden and our gang, as we go on with the music on a J. Clark Thursday show. It's the sound of the Doors. And the Doors break on through to the other side. WTRY J. Clark Showtime is now 11:31.
WTRY.
Troy, New York, a division of Cops Monahan Communications Incorporated.
On we go with the music, the mirth, and everything else on a J. Clark Thursday show, especially for you, my dear. Hi, Sherry. Amour. Little Stevie Wonder sound for you, number 17 on the WTRY Big Sound Survey, too. My Sherry Amour. WTRY J. Clark Showtime is 11:34.
WTRY. Weather watch.
You know what they always say about the weather? Variable cloudiness, continued warm and humid tonight with a chance of a thunder shower. Partly cloudy. Well, right now it's partly cloudy. I have 78 degrees in the sound of cream. What a breakdown. WTRY J. Clark Showtime is now 11:38. From the lively one, I want you all to listen here very closely now because this is what's happening.
Here's this week's star attractions of the WTRY Lively Ones as they appear all over Capital Country. Saturday afternoon, Jay Clark, Chuck Morgan, and me, Bob Hall, will model fashions from 1 p.m. until 4 at the Rose Den with junior models from Pandemonium at Plaza Colony Center.
Whoa, the big difference in Capital Country. WTRY, great 98.
Yeah.
And then they put me back up onto the night show because my ratings, frankly, doing that weren't great. And after that happening 3 or 4 times, to me. I said, okay, screw it. I'm going to become a professional drummer. That's where I wanted to be to begin with. I can't take any more of this, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to be me and talk to people, and that'll be it.
Wow.
And when I started doing that,
Mhm.
my career as an on-air person, I actually blossomed.
Jay Clark. Hey, weatherman says variable cloudiness, continued warm and humid Friday, mostly cloudy in Capital Land. I have 78 degrees. The annual flea market, sponsored by the Exchange Club of Chatham, will be held on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Chatham Fairgrounds. From WTRY, that's what's happening.
WTRY, it's number one.
That is number one in the WTRY Big Sound Survey, too. Don't forget, though, everything changes tomorrow afternoon with Rick Bennett. You'll be listening to the Ricker because he's going to turn you on and count down the Big Sound Survey. WTRY Jay Clark Showtime is now 11:23.
For summer, ship to Pfeiffer. Tuesday night, July 22nd at 8 o'clock. Sensational talent at Tanglewood. Why miss it?
Sounds to me like that's going to be a heavy, heavy show. You might make it out there right now in cooperation with the Mohawk Hudson River Humane Society shelter in Manans. WTRY presents Adopt a Dog. An English sheepdog mixed named Snoopy this time. Snoopy is black and white, a male 2.5 years old. Snoopy is housebroken, good with the kids, and has had all of his shots. And if you'd like Snoopy around your house, why, you just stop by the Mohawk Hudson River Humane Society shelter in Manans and adopt a dog. Flap Blues action for us, Spanky McFarden and our gang as we go on with the music on a Jay Clark Thursday show. It's the sound of the Doors. Let the Doors break on through to the other side. WTRY Jay Clark Showtime is now 11:31.
Troy, New York, a division of Cops Monahan Communications Incorporated.
On we go with the music, the mirth, and everything else on a Jay Clark Thursday show, especially for you, my dear. Hi, Sherry. Amor. Little Stevie Wonder sound for you, number 17 on the WTRY Big Sound Survey, too. My Sherry Amor. WTRY Jay Clark Showtime is 11:34.
WTRY, weather watch.
You know what they always say about the weather? Variable cloudiness, continued warm and humid tonight with a chance of a thunder shower. Partly cloudy. Well, right now it's partly cloudy. I have 78 degrees in the sound of cream. Cream. What a breakdown. WTRY Jay Clark Showtime is now 11:38. From the lively one, I want you all to listen here very closely now because this is what's happening.
Here's this week's star attractions of the WTRY Lively Ones as they appear all over Capital Country. Saturday afternoon, Jay Clark, Chuck Morgan, and me, Bob Hull, in model fashions from 1 p.m. until 4 at the Rose Den with junior models from Pandemonium at Plaza and Colony Center.
Oh, the big difference in Capital Country. WTRY, Great 98.
And then I went down to Morning Drive, and I became the Morning Drive guy
Mhm.
there. Crazy Art had this problem in that if it rained more than 3 weeks in a row, he'd fire the morning guy. And you know, so I'm the morning guy, and a fellow by the name of Doug Cole, who a lot of people don't know about, but he was wonderful. Doug Cole was the PD,
Okay.
and you know, it rained 3 weeks in a row. And it's time to fire Jay.
Oh, jeez.
And Doug said, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I suppose we could put him back on overnights, but you know, he's too valuable in the station right now to do that.
Wow.
And Doug is the guy that actually put me on 10 to 2, which was probably the best shift I ever had. And that was an evening shift.
Okay.
And Doug came back from San Francisco and heard a free-form show and said, Jay, you know a lot about music. You know, you play music, yada, yada. Why don't you do a show like that? I think maybe at that point I was the music director too.
Okay.
So I did. And then I ended up emceeing just about every show that was in Albany. Lee had left and Doug was the PD. But anyway, he refused to do that.
Nice.
And so Crazy Art fired him. and said, "You're going to be the acting PD."
Jeez.
Said, "You're the acting PD."
I'll be darned.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And that probably was the start of my real career.
Sure.
Because I was on the air at TRY, and that is really the last place that I was on the air
Interesting.
as a regular personality.
Wow. Now, see, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it happened that fast, that you went into the consulting and then that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, I didn't. What happened was the phone rang one day, and it was the program director over at WTRY.
Okay.
And because my show was the number 2 show, I think Bill Edwardson was the morning guy at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he just had massive ratings.
Oh, he just ruled the market. Absolutely.
And he was retiring. The PD wanted to know if I was interested in going over there. And I said, well, give me a day or two to think about it, maybe, because 50,000 was. The next thing that happens is that night, that very same night, I get a call from Al Herskovitz, who's the PD at WPRO, wondering if I want to go over there to be the program director.
Wow. So there's that list you made.
Yeah.
And PRO's on there.
Holy cow, there we go. Yeah,
wow. Before we leave TRY completely, I have just one name to mention to you, because I went to high school with Bob Hall. Do you remember him, Bob? Yeah, a tall drink of water with a voice that came from his knees. And he was, I guess, a traffic reporter for you guys for a while when he was in high school. And did you ever keep in touch with him after he left the market? Because he did more after leaving TRY. Do you recall?
Not really.
No.
And I must tell you that the biggest regret I have about my radio career is that I didn't stay in touch with a lot of the people. Now, the TRY group, because of Rick, and because we all ended up down here in Florida, we would stay together. Jim Lord, Bob Connell had passed by that time. James K. Davis, I still talk to him a lot. And we would get together and, drink and remind everybody, talk about the good old days, et cetera, and some of this crazy stuff that happened.
Yeah, well,
it was the Wild West.
We do that here with a luncheon, and that keeps most of us sober anyway. But we do that here every other month. It's a group called the Louis Lunch. It's been mentioned on this podcast many times. And there are like 50 people I invite, and about 15 to 20, maybe sometimes a little bit more, show up for this lunch. And it's folks, a lot of names you might remember from back in the 60s, right on through, some more recent folks that have joined us. But it is just quite a camaraderie, and it was probably one of those guys that say, have you interviewed Jay Clark yet? And I said, oh gosh, I know I've seen, him on a couple of things online, and I got to find him. And so, here we are talking about it. But in any event, that's terrific that you kept in touch with some, but, Bob wasn't one of them. But I always admired him because my start was at, lowly WSNY in Schenectady, and he was on WTRY in Troy, which to me was, that's where I was headed. That was on my list for the future. So tell me about WPRO. They give you a buzz and they want you to come over as PD.
Yeah, that's correct. And so what I did, and I've suggested to anybody who wants to get into the business or is looking for a new job, et cetera, and has decided they have an upward climb, to go to a blackboard and, now you do it on a computer, obviously.
Yes.
And draw a line that says, actually a mirror is better because you're looking at yourself. You draw a line as to where you think you are now. And then you draw another line as to what I have to do to get to my next step.
Yeah.
What is my next step? I've discovered over the years that the people who either go too low or too high on that line where they think they are the people that don't actually succeed because they overthink how good they are or how bad they are.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, obviously. But for me, I went to that mirror and I did that. And I said, okay, can I get to New York? And because I have dyslexia and because back then people were still reading a lot of live copy.
That's true. Yeah.
I said, I probably would I hire myself if I was going the way I said it.
Yeah.
Decided that no, I probably would not be able to make it in New York because of the dyslexia.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't hire myself, but I'm good with people.
Yep.
And the staff seemed to like me as their boss. And I said, I really enjoy that. I enjoy mentoring. So that's what I did. I went to PRO and became, I did some stuff on the air if I had to, but for the most part, I was an off-air PD, and we had a great time. We were able to be the number one station. First of all, we were the station that reaches the beaches, AM.
Ah, nice.
But then I talked management into taking the FM from Schulke, which was kind of this almost beautiful music
Yep.
background thing,
Right.
to top 40. And the reason I did that is because there was some competition in the market, I think WGNG.
Okay.
They didn't quite have our signal, but they were doing really good top 40. And WJAR was doing very good AC, and I'm boxed in the middle. And so what I suggested was Pro FM would be the top 40, and I knew that would be GNG.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, I could power in as the AC or soft rock, if you will, because we had all the personalities, and just destroy and not have to worry about, the bottom end. And so we did that, and it worked extremely well. And I was able, by the way, I love Gary Berkowitz. I hired him. He's been very kind in talking about the fact that I hired him, and I'm the guy that started him. And, I appreciate that because he's probably one of the best AC consultants in the country right now.
Yep.
So there was that, and that all worked out really well. And suddenly, after about 6 years or 5 years at Pro, I get a phone call from, what the heck was his name? It was a consultant anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to go to WTIC in Hartford.
Okay.
But something that you'll really like is, remember I mentioned WBZ before.
Right. On your list.
So I'm program director at PRO. Got to know the program director at WBZ, who said, "Why don't you come over here and do weekends?"
Oh, jeez. Whoa.
Now, at that point, I decided, no, I didn't want to do that. But at least, my 3 top stations I could have done.
There you go.
And
wow.
that was really wonderful. But anyway, I get to TIC, 50,000 watts, clear channel, owns Hartford, Connecticut. The consultant also had TIC FM, which was Hot Hits.
Okay.
And that was his format. I went in and did WTIC, and that was kind of interesting because it was kind of a 2-tier management thing.
Okay.
A guy by the name of David Chase had bought the place, but one of the things he said is that the management that's here, and he did this the day I get there. He said, "You still have a chance to go back to PRO if you want." So he had an accent. "So I want you to understand this is the way it's got to be." And I said, "Okay, fine." And the thing about him, and you never hear this today, is these people have spent their lives at this radio station because it was like WGY. You know, I mean, it's bigger, but the same kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "So these people will not know if the programming stuff, you'll report to the programmer. For the operation stuff, you report to the general manager, and they will not know that you are doing whatever you need to do. But if you really need and have a problem, you go to WTRY, who was the sales manager, and he will take care of you, and you will have complete it." Wow. So, but he said, these people will not know because they will retire with dignity when they want to.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So that was an interesting job. The morning guy actually had bigger numbers than Salty Brine. And that's the other thing.
Oof.
Had a chance to work with real morning show pros.
Yeah.
They were very different. And they were also people that, if you were in top 40 radio, you wouldn't recognize as being good. If you came to the market, you'd say, oh, what the hell is that guy doing? But I can tell you, Salty Brine owned Providence.
Yeah.
And Bob Steele owned Hartford. Bob Steele had bigger ratings than the 3 television stations in the afternoon news or evening news had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was just amazing.
Good old days.
And then, let's see, you want to know where I'd gone from there. Well, I suddenly, back in those days, I would go out for a 2 Scotch lunch because that's what you did.
Yep.
Fortunately, got over that habit. But anyway, I come back from my 2 Scotch lunches, and my assistant says, there's a guy on the phone. He says he's Rick Sklar.
Whoa.
Now, for those who don't know who Rick Sklar was, he was the program director of WABC in New York.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They had just gotten beat by WKTU. So Rick was leaving WABC and going to corporate, and they were looking for a program guy for WABC. And I said to him, who's this? Come on.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
I'm Rick Sklar.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Rick Sklar.
Yeah.
What do you want? and he wanted me not to go to WABC. He wanted me to go to Detroit because they had a big talk station there.
Yep.
And I looked at him and I said, well, how much does it pay? And it paid a little bit less than what I was making, and I was due for a raise at WTIC. And I said, why would I go to Detroit, a bigger market, less signal? Cost of living is going to be more there.
Right.
This is silly. So, no, I'm not interested. Well, it's WABC, it's ABC. And I said, well, I understand that, but it doesn't make any sense. So, I get a call from him the next time, and it's for KABC in Los Angeles. Well,
wow.
I at least fly out and think about a station that's owned by ABC called Hey ABC. Would you do that? So I go out there, and the general manager, at that point in time, I wasn't going to listen to anybody. If they wanted a programmer, I was going to be a programmer. And the GM really wanted a program place. So after a week out there, I turned that job down. George Green was the general manager. He understood it. And frankly, he was on my side when I went to ABC, and a mentor, and was really a good guy, but understood. So I turned that one down. The next thing that happens is the program director, who had been a producer at WBZ, decided he didn't like the general manager at WABC, and only been there, like a couple of months. And he decides he's going to leave. So I called Sklar. And I said, you probably don't know this. You've been looking at me as a talk guy because WTIC's talk numbers were through the roof. I said, my background's top 40. I can do music. I'm better at that, frankly, than talk. Oh, can you be here tomorrow? So I go there tomorrow, and they hired me on the spot.
Wow.
I was there for a number of years. We turned WABC. I was the most hated guy in New York because we turned WABC from music to talk.
Yeah,
really
yeah. I just learned that this morning, looking up, again, doing a little bit of research on your career. And I'm thinking, oh, I used to like this guy, because I just thought that change just killed top 40 radio, and obviously talk about your reasoning behind it, because really, because it was the right thing to do.
I am so glad you asked that question, because it's a great story. So I'm there, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is not going to work against TK. Was it TKU? I think it was.
Yep.
That's the station that beat WABC, which started that whole thing. And so I'm looking at the way Westinghouse did it at WBZ, and I said, I really like that. What they did is they started at night. And so what I went out and did is I got the Yankees. And I did that contract. And so now we're carrying the Yankees. And there was a guy by the name of Art Rush Jr., who was a good sports talk guy. So a month later, put him on the air.
Mm.
And then I got Dr. Judith Kuryansky doing a sex talk show and put her on the air just before. So now I have nights, and nights are going pretty well,
Mm.
and the ratings are great, supported by the Yankees.
Sure.
And suddenly there's a baseball strike.
Mm.
And the baseball strike meant that the next book, our night numbers went down considerably.
Sure.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
So the general manager comes running into my office and says, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I told you that it's never going to work. It's never going to work. The Yankees." He said, "We got to be number one." I said, "Well, you can never be number one anymore. You can be number one Q-wise, I suppose,
Mm.
now, but you can't be number one as a music station against these guys. You can't do it."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, what do we do? What do we have to do?" And I said, "Well, we have to go talk." He grabbed me. Now, keep in mind, he came from San Francisco. They had the number one talk station there, and he was the general manager there. And the way the politics worked, he was going to become head of local radio.
Okay.
So he grabs me by the tie and drags me out of the building, down the elevator, and across the street to the guy who was the president of owned radio stations.
Okay.
And his name was Chuck DeBear. Wonderful man. Wonderful man. I love Chuck. And Al Racco, who was the general manager, is saying to Chuck, "Jay wants to take a talk. It's the only way to go. Jay wants to take a talk." And he's jumping up and down, and Chuck is sitting there smoking a cigar, which he could do in the office at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this.
Mm.
So I said to him, it's a little silly. You're going to go on my word to take this radio station talk. Don't you think we ought to have some research? Now, that shows you how young and how I didn't understand how powerful I was in that seat, because they would have.
Yeah.
But I said, we need research. Rocco says, "How are we going to do that? We don't have money for research. No money for research." And I said, "Well, yes, we do. Because remember, when I took the job, I wouldn't take the job unless promotions and engineering reported to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we have money in promotions. What? We're not going to do promotions on the station?" I said, "No, you're going to do research because you need research to make that kind of decision." Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, that's what we did. The research came in late, unfortunately. A lot of the way we went talk was not to my liking. And I learned never do things for money.
Ah, interesting.
Because what would happen is they'd come in and they'd say, "Okay, we have to get rid of a lot of the news people." Now you can't do that. We're very big in news. No, we got to do it. We got to do it. And finally, I would do it, and they'd give me a $500 a month raise or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 2 or 3 things like that happened. We brought in a guy from L.A. with a British accent at that time. That probably wasn't a good idea. But the head of ABC Network and everything else had run KABC as a general manager before George Green.
Okay.
There are a lot of names here.
Yeah.
This poor audience is going to go crazy. He was really directing what he wanted WABC to sound like.
Okay.
He was this very, very smart man, but he was wrong. It's New York City, not Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have the commute time in New York City that you have in Los Angeles.
That's right, too, yeah.
And I can go on and on and on. But that's basically what happened. We took a talk, and I stayed there. I was there for a while. And then they brought in a new general manager. And at that point in time, I eventually lost the job.
Well, that's bound to happen. I mean, now that I think about it, when you're telling the story so far, you haven't been fired yet from any place, correct?
This was really the first time I was actually fired.
Yeah.
So I looked around. and finally got a job in Cleveland, working for a guy who was crazier than crazy art. But that's another thing. And in the worst format I've ever done, they had a great country station.
Mm-hmm.
Country station was wonderful. And so what he wanted to do with the AM is he wanted big time morning guy doing talk and music, followed by a midday talk show, followed by an afternoon music show, followed by a nighttime jazz show.
Wow.
I guess I'm going to have to do this, because I need the money.
Yeah.
So I went and I did it. Eventually, I get a call from Los Angeles to do KHits and KRLA. And I took that job. A big market.
Sure.
Why not? I was there about 6 years.
Wow.
Maybe not quite that long. Maybe it was 3.
Okay, but it seemed like 6?
It gets a little foggy. It seemed like 6, yeah. No, it was great. And the owner of the company actually came up with the solution for us because we were playing soft AC against Coast, which is a big call letters out there.
Yeah.
He came up with the fact that license plates every month changed. And so I think we were the first station that did the greatest hits because we called ourselves KHits.
Okay.
The greatest hits of the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
And that stuck with AC stations for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, on the other side, we were playing top 40, and I was able to hire a couple of names you probably know. One was Emperor Hudson.
I remember that name. Yep.
Another was the real Don Steele.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And the third was Wolfman Jack.
Wow.
And they all worked live and in luscious living color.
Oh,
I mean, it was an amazing radio station.
Mm-hmm.
We beat Coast, and we also did a number KHJ.
Okay.
On the AM side.
Wow.
So, we were good radio stations, and I was very, very pleased with the way that all worked.
Mm-hmm.
I left there for Detroit. And Detroit was interesting because I ended up at an AC station there, WYMC, and then ended up going to Detroit's Wheels.
Wow.
The guy called me and I said, well, I really don't know a lot about hard rock. And he said, yeah, but think about what Detroit's Wheels are, and we can teach you. We've got consultants out in the West Coast, and we've got a guy in New York, and I really need a good manager. Okay, fine. So I went. And it was hard because I liked the general manager at OMC. She was good. But this guy was a really good sales guy. And we turned Wheels around.
Nice.
Wheels was the worst radio station in Detroit as far as rock was concerned. I had a great music director who played drums or sat in with Seeger quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so he knew the music of Detroit.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I said to him, okay, I want to know the Detroit hits and I want to know the national hits. And I used the national hits from the consulting group out in LA.
Okay.
And then we put together our music, and I knew we had it before the spring book when I went to a gas station and everybody had a song.
Nice.
I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. I worked in the of all places, Tupelo, Mississippi, for a while. Okay. Don't we won't go there. I've told the story before, but talk about no money for any kind of research, and there were no ratings books. This is back in 1975. Okay, and I'm only 6 years into the business. But anyway, our research consisted of each disc jockey once a week was supposed to go down to the local shopping mall and look in the windows of the cars, because back then, if you remember, you could see the dial position on the car radio. And so you look through the window and see if you could see where nobody's in the car. So you're just kind of, peeping Tom, looking into these cars. And that's basically, how we figured out there were 3 stations in the market, and there was one on the low end of the dial, one on the high end of the dial, and we were in the middle. So it was very easy for us to figure out if we were doing stuff right or we needed to adjust, So, hey, you do what you have to do. You had to know your market. And that's how we did it in lowly Tupelo, Mississippi in 1975.
You can't do that today because it's all digital.
Exactly. It's not going to work. But back then you could do that.
And
It's
I know
crazy.
that for a fact because I've been working up until, like I said, last week
Yeah.
for a radio group, the Cohan Radio Group in Sebring, Florida.
Okay.
And we have a number of stations here. Well, we have country, which is the big signal.
Mm-hmm.
We have AC. I put on a classic hit station, which I turned more classic rock, and news talk, and ESPN sports. And the stations did extremely well. All I can say is that it's been fun, but I began getting really frustrated because we didn't have the money that I'm kind of used to fix stations.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you that a lot of stations don't have that money.
That's true. Yep.
And I found that out when I was working for Sirius Satellite Radio.
Oh, okay.
And that's really where I retired, because I was living on a boat at that point in time in New York Harbor. And it was a great 48-foot catamaran. And I really wanted to start sailing before I was too old to do so. So that's how I left Sirius Satellite Radio. But that probably, other than the media markets that I worked at, and maybe Detroit, was the best job I'd ever had.
Nice.
And the reason is because it was brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just starting. Everybody was young, except kind of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to mentor and bring along these very young but talented people. I think that feeling of, oh my God, I'm doing something great that doesn't seem to be happening in radio
Yeah.
was there. God, I thrived on that. It was just phenomenal and wonderful. And I sometimes question my judgment in leaving there, only because I expected to get on my boat and start sailing, and then I got the boat down here. And nobody wanted to do it. My family said, "What are you, crazy?" That's what happened. I started consulting at that point in time, and then was consulting this group, and they were probably my biggest client. Things worked out. My son is now an actor, singer, dancer, and he's leaving for California actually today. He's going to play Jerry Lee Lewis in L.A.
Wow.
At Van Nuys. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
$1 Million Quartet.
Yeah.
So I had no reason to stay where I was, which was Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who was running this place said, "Oh, we really need you down here, And so I came down. And I was here for a couple of years, and now it's time. It's time for me to just kind of relax.
Yeah.
The programming in the station's fine. I don't have to deal with the sales department, sometimes working, sometimes not.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
That's
in a nutshell, that's my career.
Well, and what oh man! I mean, I've been writing down the calls here in the cities, and it blows my mind. That a kid drummer from Great Barrington winds up doing what you've done with your career. That is something. You talk about the sales programming relationship. That's one that I never quite figured out. I was program director of a station here in Albany for probably about 7 or 8 years. I never really figured out when I got the title. The biggest problem I had was getting on the same page with the sales department. There was a sales manager at the time who could, he sold well, but he couldn't sell the format. It was a country music format, and he had a real tough time selling that. The station since has gone on to be the number one station in the market for the last 25, 30 years. And I got it into the top 5. I helped it along the way, but it was just a weird situation where I just didn't feel I was going to be able to, surmount this problem between sales and programming. And I didn't have to worry about it because I got fired. After 17 years in the business, I got fired for the first time. And my wife very smartly said, maybe there's something besides radio you could do. And yeah. And smart lady. And I wound up in a couple of other careers doing part-time radio and TV work after that and had a ball. But that was mostly weekend stuff. And, during the week, I'm making good bucks traveling the country in marketing and sales. And so I have no regrets whatsoever, the twists and turns that my life has taken, but I never will get this out of my system. I haven't been on the radio now for 5 years, but
I must tell you one story.
Please.
And it's, first of all, have you heard of a guy by the name of Walt Sabo?
It sounds familiar.
Okay, Walter Sabo is one of these guys who's a genius, but so far ahead of his time that he kind of needs somebody to bring his idea down to reality.
Okay.
I worked with him a couple of times, actually. When I got here in Orlando, he called me and said, you got to go to Orlando. You got to be the program director there because he's fantastic, wonderful. So I did. I came to Orlando, and they had switched from music to talk.
Okay.
And it was young male talk. It was called Real Radio. So I get there, and there were a couple of things that had to happen. One, in his vision, we would be, because we were looking for young adults, we would play music on the weekends.
Okay.
We would be talked during the week. So I'm getting ready to do this switch. And by the way, the only place the station was making money at that point in time was the talk shows on the weekends.
Yep.
So I go to the sales manager, and I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at the garden guy, and he's got a 0.3, and the dog doctor, he's got a 0.2. Ross, Bo, and Dirty Jim have a 20. And then the lawyer has a 0.1.
Okay.
So I said, well, what is this Russ, Bo, and Dirty Jim? What do they do?
Yeah.
They had a party store.
Okay.
And so the sales manager says, well, they give away gifts. And I said, oh, that's great. So, and by the way, I listened to the show, and the show was great.
Okay.
Very local. I said, so you're telling me that if I give away gifts on during the week, I can be number one? Is that correct? Is that what you're saying? Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Okay.
So she left, and I moved Russ, Bo, and Dirty Jim into early evening. And the reason I did that was because we had a gal by the name of Erin Summers. And how can I be very explicit or not?
Sure.
She was doing a sex talk show, and you can bleep this out if you want. But one of the things that she did, and one of the reasons I got hired, was because she's on, and she has this wonderful smoky voice.
Sure.
Hi, this is Erin Summers. And it was real. It was a real smoky voice. She had something happened to her larynx. But anyway, the topic tonight is, you can bleep it out. And, and it was on at like 7 o'clock at night. And, I'm good. So they hired me. And one of the questions was, would I fire her? And I said, no, but I'd probably, talk to her about it and move her to 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where the FCC isn't going to bother you. And that's where I put Russ, Bull, and Dirty Jim. They have since become the monsters of the morning.
Nice.
Dirty Jim is now doing afternoon drive. And the radio station went from nowhere to number 2 overall, 12 plus.
Wow.
Number 1 in adults, males 18 to 140, and females from 18 to 34, and then eventually 18 to 64.
Okay.
I mean, the radio station was a huge, huge success. And I can remember we were having some trouble selling stuff. And by the way, I put Howard Stern on in the morning, and that worked out extremely well.
Nice.
but I can remember two incidents. One was we were having trouble selling the station, and the female agencies were having some kind of convention.
Okay.
And I ended up being the host or being the talking to them,
Okay.
which was smart because the sales manager decided this would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I hired a male stripper. Okay. And so I started talking about, because everything was, oh, it's not good for our kids. I started with Sinatra,
Okay.
and the male stripper came out, and he took off his shirt. And then I went to Presley, I guess it was, and then he took down his pants and has his shorts, a t-shirt. And, and I just walked them through, then rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then to us, then by the time it gets to us, he has his shirt off, and he's wearing this, probably a G-string or some dumb thing.
Right.
And these women are drunk enough, so they're going crazy. and we got a lot of buys.
I would say.
so that all worked out. And the other thing that happened at that station was Real Radio, was Stern. Stern did a very, very obnoxious bit about when he was in Vietnam. Now, I never was in Vietnam.
No.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
But the newspaper got hold of it.
Oh, boy.
And our main sponsor, McDonald's, decided that they absolutely positively didn't want to be on our station anymore. We just got the buy.
Wow.
And so we lost them. And I asked the sales manager, I said, okay, what can I do? Can I do anything? And if I do it, are you going to get upset? And he said, no, they're not on the air anymore. I can't, so what? So the midday guy says, I want to give out their number, their phone number. And so we did. We gave out their phone number, and people called and called and called. And then the afternoon drive guy, probably one of the best talk show hosts I've ever worked with, said, we have this website, because we were ahead of our time.
Mm-hmm.
We have this website, and it has the caloric values of all the fast food chains. Can I go in and talk about what a Big Mac is?
Okay.
And I said, all right. I again asked the sales manager. He says, yeah, sure. Why not? and so, he's saying it's not good for your kids. How about killing your husband?
Oh, jeez.
Look at this, Now, the thing that was wild is at that point, the general manager, who's also the general manager of the TV station, and the agency calls and says, we're going to have to pull the TV station if you can't get this off the air. So he calls me and says, how much? He never said to me, you have to pull it. He said, how much longer is it going to be? And it's because he worked for Price Communications, and editorial and sales never mixed.
Mm-hmm.
And in his mind, that's the way it happened.
Sure.
So, I go to Jim Phillips was the guy's name. I go to him and I say, how much longer? He says, we're done with that. That's good. I call the general manager and he says, oh, thanks. Thank God. Year later, true story. A year later, we finally get in front of the guys who own the McDonald's franchises. And there were 3 of them.
Okay.
And we had to promise that the sales manager would talk to them and apologize for what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So he's there and he's getting ready to apologize. And the guy who owns 5 stores, the biggest guy, says, whoa, wait a minute. Before he talks, I want to talk to the agency guy, because this is important. I hire you to sell hamburgers. He said, yeah. He said, and that means that when you're on the radio, you're hiring the best radio stations that will help me sell hamburgers. Yeah. So I know that Real Radio sells hamburgers. I know because my phones were clogged up for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know because they knew how to really get to me. So if they aren't the number 1 station on the buy with the most money, I'm going to have a different agency.
Wow.
True story.
Wow.
And so I learned that one too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you learned along the way, the entire way. And boy, and if we don't do that, we miss out on so much. I mean, you got to have your ears open and be learning. Yeah.
I think that's really, really true.
Yeah.
And I've gone to the mirror a few times in my life,
Yeah.
but I've been really lucky enough to have a career that's kind of a Cinderella career when you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
There was a great guy that was a general manager at one point at WRKO that used to say to me, I'd say, "Yeah, you're really great," and he'd say, "Yeah, I've had them fooled for a long time."
There you go. Yeah.
And I that's kind of it,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people came to me for the most part.
Yeah.
And after WABC, and they didn't realize how difficult that job really was.
Sure.
And, it's the same. And no matter what the market is, it's the same. There's same mistakes, traffic mistakes,
Yeah. Yeah.
engineering mistakes,
Yeah.
and they have to be solved. So I love the business. I just worry about the business because the other thing that I learned when I was with Sirius was that, because I was at all the conventions, obviously speaking, was that the radio guys didn't get it. And I'm not talking about the programmers. I'm talking about upper management.
Yeah.
They're beginning to now. I think that you have to be in social media and you have to know how to use social media.
Yep.
And you have to sell social media. And people don't seem to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, the bigger markets are doing it now, but bigger guys. But there are a couple of people now that have 56% of their bottom line is coming from social media. Town Square is one of those companies, as a matter of fact.
Got some stations here in this market. Yep.
And if that's the case, that's where you go.
Yeah.
And you put that wonderful audio with these wonderful personalities, and you have to have personalities.
Yeah.
If they're out of market, they better know the market. They
Yes.
better be getting fed the right stuff about the market. That's the way to go. Here in Sebring, we put a morning guy on who's just himself. He used to have a country band. He's a bricklayer by trade or blocklayer. But boy, does he have an audience now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. Those are the things that make it work.
Wow. What a career.
That's my advice.
What a career. Yep. No, I'm astounded. I mean, I knew very little after you left here of what you did, since I didn't stay in the business full time myself. And so to hear this directly from you and the stops you've made along the way and the influence you've been on this unbelievable business that I've loved since I was 11 years old is it's to be commended and to be remembered and commemorated. I'm very happy that we're able to celebrate it right here on this podcast, and for you to have taken the time to share that, Jay. Just congratulations on a life well lived, and now that you're retiring, go out and live it even bigger.
Well, thank you ever so much too. And you asked me what I was going to do in retirement. I'm going to practice my drums.
Good. There you go. Yeah.
And I'm also into video. And so I'm going to be going around doing video and just for myself, basically.
Sure.
And that keeps me into kind of the social media side of my mind, if you will. And that's the side at my age that I have to stay sharp with.
There you go. No, smart.
So listen, thank you ever so much. I appreciate it.
No, and, again, my pleasure, and best of luck going forward. Just, stay healthy and learning.
I'm going to sure try.
Radio Split Ranch.
With the ever-changing landscape of terrestrial radio constantly throwing us curveballs, it's nice to reminisce about the glory days of Top 40 and what it took to make a name for yourself and not only survive, but thrive in a very demanding business. Jay Clark certainly led the way in some major markets with some major talent. We were lucky he made an early stop here in the Capital Region to entertain us. Now, I know last month's podcast ended with one of my Chris Warren air checks from WTRY when it was still 980 AM back in the late 80s. But we're going back there again this month so you can hear some of the jingles used by TRY in their mid-1960s heyday that were then combined with a new oldie station jingle package in 1988. The date is October 8th, 1988, and I hadn't gotten my own Jock signature jingle for the top of the hour yet, so I used the generic blast from the past. You'll hear that. And you'll also hear me refer to a mistake that was edited out of this air check. I'm trying to record something off the air to use later on the air, and I wound up talking over the middle of Lou Tinney's newscast live on the air. He muddled through somehow, and so did I. Obviously, the PD was sleeping. I worked Saturday mornings until 1992 there. One more note, then you can fall asleep yourself or listen to me give credit to my stepbrother in this air check, who helped create the commercial jingle The Heartbeat of America for Chevrolet back in 1987. It's all here coming up next. If it doesn't scare you away forever, please join me at the Split Ranch again next month. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Can't you hear my heartbeat, baby?
98 WTRY, 6 minutes after 6 o'clock, around 50 degrees or so, and we got full forecast coming up in just a bit. And if you're feeling lucky this morning, you may win $98 with Chris before 10.
Daytime turned on to you.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Better get ready. Nighttime's just about gone. It's 6:09 on the AM side of a Saturday morning. I'm Chris Warren. Glad to have you as a part of our get-together this Saturday. 42 is the official forecast on the outside. Just got that from Lou Tinney. He'll have news for you probably at 7 o'clock this morning. And the four-letter word is in the forecast today. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mostly cloudy, breezy, chilly, and a chance of showers mixed with some wet snow. High 45. Don't worry about that. And nothing's happening outside right now. At least it wasn't a few moments ago when I came in. So it's going to be cool. Very cool. 42 right now at 98 WTRY, where this weekend we're celebrating the birthday of John Lennon. He was born in Liverpool, England on October 9th, 1940. Would have been 48 years old tomorrow. And this weekend we're playing the best of John Lennon, including, of course, some of his early solo hits and some of the songs from the Beatle days. And we do have a Beatle song coming up next. Let's see, Norwegian Wood, in fact, we have from 1965 as we remember John Lennon on the oldie station. 98 WTRY.
Gosh, it hardly seems possible, does it? But Columbus Day is Monday.
98 WTRY and John Lennon Weekend on the oldie station. Norwegian Wood, song he wrote about a visit to Yoko Ono's place. Yeah. Got the Hollies at 14 minutes after 6 o'clock. A Saturday morning with Chris and that long, cool woman in the black dress. The oldie station is 98 WTRY. Tell your friends. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Cheer up, Sleepy Jean. It's 22 after 6 in the morning. It's a Saturday. You can roll over and go back to sleep. If I try that, it's my last day on the radio. How are you this Saturday morning? 42 degrees, mostly cloudy, and we have the full Tony Visano forecast coming up in just a few moments. Want to congratulate Kathy Newcomb of Albany. She won $98 with the WTRY money card on Brother Lou Roberts' get-together the other night. Brother Lou's doing all right. Brother Lou has had 4 out of 5 this week. We have somewhere to go to beat his record, but he's already having fun giving away a lot of this money. I haven't had the chance to yet, but between 8 and 9 this morning, I'm going to try to give away $98. Keep listening. If you've sent in your WTRY money card, listen for your name. All you have to do is call us back within 30 minutes, and you've got your share of $10,000 in cash from the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Route 7, Pownell, Vermont.
The Weather Watch 98 forecast, according to WTRY meteorologist Tony Visano, calls for a mostly cloudy, breezy, and chilly day today with a chance of showers mixed with some wet snow and a high of 45. Don't say it too loud. Cloudy, cool tonight, chance of a shower, possible flurry, low 35. Then clouds mixing with some sunshine tomorrow, possible showers or flurries in the higher elevations and a high of 48. My dad's in town from Florida. We're just welcoming him with a little bit of white stuff. Why not? 42 and cloudy at 98 WTRY.
Great 98 WTRY. Golden.
98 WTRY, the home of the Capital District's oldie station. 6:30, 42 degrees as we head to a mostly cloudy, breezy, chilly day today. A lot of good stuff going on here. Coming up in about, less than an hour from now, 7:20 this morning. I'll clue you in as to when we're going to be dipping into the big money mailbag. Don't go.
Well, I'm on my way. go home again.
98 WTRY, 23 before 7 o'clock. How are you this Saturday morning? Got some more for you from Stephen Stills.
If you're down,
98 WTRY, the oldie station. Stephen Stills, love the one you are with. Just you roll over there. No, you don't know that person? Well, forget it. 20 and a half before 7 o'clock. It is a Saturday morning. My name is Chris Warren, but I won't admit it on the telephone. 42 and some cloudiness and starting to get a little lighter outside. Full forecast from Tony Vazano coming up in just a little bit. And as we mentioned earlier, at 20 after 7 this morning, we'll have some hints for you as to when you might get your chance at a share of $10,000 with a WTRY money card. We'll tell you when we're going to be drawing names throughout the rest of the day. We do that at 7:20 this morning. I tell you right now, between 8 and 9 this morning, I'm going to try to give away $98 in cold, hard cash. So stick around for that. Coming up next, another WTRY Gold Rush with at least 3 great oldies in a row. Got some music coming up before the hour's out from the Beach Boys and Johnny Mathis. And next up, Sam the Sham.
Now, more than a...
The greatest hits of all time are on the oldie station, 98 WTRY. Here's Johnny Mathis. 98 WTRY, the oldie station with Zager and Evans. They're one-hit wonders from 1969 and a song that was on the top of the charts for many, many weeks. First year I was in radio, and I had to play that song every 70 minutes. That's the way it worked back then anyway. In the year 2525, 8.5 before 7 o'clock with Chris. And 98 WTRY has some fun this afternoon. We're going to return to the sensational 60s at the New Scotland Avenue Armory. It's a benefit for the Albany Vietnam Memorial. The fun starts at 2 o'clock with lots of entertainment, prizes, and giveaways. We've got 1960s prices on beer, soda, hot dogs, hamburgers. Bring the kids in the afternoon, then come back tonight for the WTRY Oldies Party. We're going to spin all your favorite dancing oldies from 9 until midnight. Now, tickets are just $10 in advance or $12 at the door. Your ticket admission includes 2 drinks, a dog or burger. Admission for our WTRY's Oldies Party is half price at the door, and you can get your tickets right now today at Cisco Foods or Drome Sound, and then join us as we help build the Albany Vietnam Memorial. That's all day today at the New Scotland Avenue Armory, starting at 2 this afternoon with the Oldie Station 98 WTRY. Yes, it's my turn. We're just having a good laugh here in the studio. Right, 50,000. Right, Lou. 6 before 7 o'clock in the WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to WTRY meteorologist Tony Vazano, calls for high of 48. High to you. It's 42 and cloudy now at WTRY Weather Watch. 98 WTRY.
98 WTRY.
98 WTRY, the oldie station. The Beach Boys, God only knows what Lou Tinney's got in store for us just 2.5 minutes from right now. Lou's got the news at 7. We'll be back. Got some great music coming up next hour from Junior Walker, Sandy Posey, remember her, Dave Clark 5, Ray Charles, honey, and a lot more. Stick around. Here's Dion.
A service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Blast from the past. WTRY, the oldie station.
Doc. Oh, hope he didn't get you there. 8 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning. Chris Warren in your ear till 10 o'clock this morning. Got music coming up this hour from Dave Clark 5, Ray Charles, 4 Seasons and more. Robin Givens sings Who's Sorry Now, and Mike Tyson sings Who's That Girl this hour. Don't go away. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. 11 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're going to do the Bristol Stomp right here in the studio. Got my sneakers on. Here are the Novels. It's in the Bristol Stomp. 98 WTRY, the oldie station. 13 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're just a few minutes away from checking out when you could win your share of $10,000 in cash. We'll give you some hints as to when the WTRY Money Card mailbag will be opened up throughout the day. So stick around. In just a few minutes, we're going to do that. And right now, we're going to do a WTRY Gold Rush very shortly anyway. Coming up, another at least 3 great oldies in a row on WTRY. Also, just to let you know that this weekend we're doing something a little special, and it's in honor of a fantastic guy who kind of changed the course of popular music in his day. John Lennon, of course, born in Liverpool, England on October 9th, 1940, would have been 48 years old tomorrow. So all this weekend we're playing the best of John Lennon, including some of his early solo hits and some of the songs from the Beatle days. Coming up seconds from now, a song from Rubber Soul called Girl, and that goes back to about 1965 as well as we remember John Lennon on the oldie station 98 WTRY. All right, we're going to do this now? Okay, good.
WTRY's Gold Rush means more oldies back to back. The oldie station. 98 TRY. Is there any girl?
Playing the greatest hits of all time. We're 98 WTRY, the Capital District's one and only oldie station. 98 WTRY, Ace. And how long has this been going on? Well, only about an hour and 20 minutes. Can I stick around, boss, please? On this date in history, 1944, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet made its debut on CBS Radio, which happened to be Ozzie and Harriet Nelson's 9th wedding anniversary. This guy was 4 years old at the time. Here's Ricky. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, 22 after 7 o'clock. It's a Saturday morning, and we've got some cloudiness, and looks like only headed to about, 45 today? That's it. We're at 42 right now. Forecast coming up in just a few moments from Tony Bazzano. But right now, since it is a little after 7:22 actually, on a Saturday morning, I'm going to let you give you a few hints here as to when you get your chance at the WTRY Money Card giveaway. We have over exactly $10,000 in cash to give away, and we're giving it away in increments from $25 to $1,000. You could win $98 next hour between 8 and 9. We'll be drawing a name out of our mailbag here. Hope you've sent yours in. Or how about another $98 chance between 11 and 12 today with Captain Bob O'Neill. He'll be in. And this afternoon with Jerry Tyler, he's in between 3 and 4 with another $98 to give away. Your chance to win some bucks here. There you go. If you've sent us your WTRY Money Card, be listening today. If you hear your name, you call us back within 30 minutes, you win your share of $10,000 cash from the oldie station.
When you hear the Foreman Company, formerly known as Flaws in Colony Center, Stuyvesant Plaza, and Mohawk Mall.
Oh, yeah, that's, again, my turn. I'm awake here this morning. I really am. And in a few moments, when my body gets here, we're going to be in good shape. Weather Watch 98 forecast, according to WTRY meteorologist. Currently, it is we're a little ahead of ourselves here. 42 degrees at Weather Watch 98, WTRY.
WTRY, the oldie station.
98 WTRY, Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs at their Sugar Shack. On your mark, get set, catch them if you can.
Here they come again.
This is Lieutenant for Newswatch 98, a service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Lou, I suppose it's too late for me to call in sick, huh?
Blast from the past.
That's where I'm going to be.
WTRY, the oldie station.
I'm going to be in the past real quick here. 23 minutes before 8 o'clock. Here's Carly Simon.
The good old days.
Carly Simon, Anticipation. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, where this weekend it's more of Super Gold, America's coast-to-coast oldies request show with Mike Harvey. Happens tonight with a spotlight on the hottest rock and roll groups of the 60s. And on Super Gold Sunday tomorrow night, it's a spotlight on the superstars of the rock and roll 50s. Super Gold every Saturday, Sunday night, beginning at 7 on the oldie station, 98 WTRY. 19 shy of 8 o'clock, Chris on the radio till 10 o'clock this morning. Unless there's somebody in power at this radio station that's listening.
98
WTRY. Hear the record collection of your dreams on the oldie station. 98 WTRY and Bobby Day, who I understand used to love Birdseed. It's 11 minutes before 8 o'clock. I don't know where this stuff comes from, but I don't write it. Believe me, it just pops right out of my mouth, and I usually am not thinking about it beforehand. So 42 degrees and cloudiness, and a full forecast from Tony Bazzano is moments away. But first, yes, it is time once again for our Saturday morning horoscopes. Let's check Aries. Lease, don't buy yet. Rehearse, don't start the show yet. That's what I should have done this morning. Flirt, don't fall in love yet. All right, Taurus, you need the kind of shakeup that only vigorous physical activity can provide. Dance, run, exercise. Gemini, buy 2 tickets to paradise. You need and deserve to spend some time in a place where there's no pressure. Cancer, put the accent on overcoming your sense of isolation. Get more feedback. Speak your secret thoughts. Leo, scratch that itch before it drives you to distraction. Activities that have been of secondary importance should be temporarily primary. And Virgo, your mind has been jumbled by frenetic activity. Cool it by indulging in sensual pleasures tonight. Go out and eat. All right, if you say so. And we've got the rest of your horoscopes this morning in just a few seconds.
Gosh, it hardly seems possible.
Shop and save.
The Weather Watch 98 forecast, according to WTRY meteorologist Tony Bazzano, calls for mostly cloudy, breezy 42 and cloudy at Weather Watch 98 WTRY, where we're going to do the rest of your horoscopes this Saturday morning. Yes, it is the 8th of October, and Libra, the storm will blow over with minor damage. Don't spend a small fortune on umbrellas or lifeboats. Scorpio, romance gives you another shot. If you want to take advantage, be as exciting as you know how to be. Sagittarius, goofing off should be a spiritual exercise. Be highly original in how you seek relaxation. Capricorn, you can make up for what you squandered before. Atone for your sins against yourself. Aquarius, bending the rules of the game is okay. Breaking the laws of the land is not. And Pisces, welcome back fallen angels. Give everyone a second chance. Churn out loads of forgiveness. For what it's worth, there are your horoscopes for this Saturday morning on the Oldie Station.
The Oldie Station, TRY.
98 WTRY. Doris Troy, just one look. Well, the question of where Christopher Columbus actually landed in America was raised again in 1986, and scientists using new analysis methods and, of course, computers reported that the real landing site in 1492 was probably about 65 miles from where historians believed it was. They pinpointed a tiny island in the Bahamas. And I don't know about that, but we had our own computers do some research, and we found out exactly what radio station Columbus and the guys were listening to.
WTRY.
That's right. Computers do not lie. Here's Sandy Posey.
For the Capital District.
Blast from the past. WTRY, the Oldie Station.
Good morning, 8 minutes after 8 o'clock. With Chris Warren till 10 this morning. Here are the Turtles. The Oldie Station, 98 WTRY, and my little deuce scoop I got in here this morning at 6 o'clock. You just woke up and just started listening? If you're just joining us, you missed one heck of an early morning show, I want to tell you. 12 minutes after 8 o'clock. My name is Chris Warren. Missed all the mistakes that I always make in the first 2 hours. And it's smooth sailing from here on out, especially this hour, because we're going to go to our money card mailbag and draw out someone's name to win $98 in cold hard American moolah. So if you've sent that WTRY money card in, be listening, because we might announce your name later on this hour. And if you call back within 30 minutes, you'll win the cash from the Oldie Station 98 WTRY, where this weekend we're celebrating the birthday of John Lennon, of course, born in Liverpool 48 years ago tomorrow on October 9th, 1940. And all weekend long, we're playing the best of John, including some of his early solo hits and some of the songs from the Beatle days. We got a Beatle oldie coming up in a few moments. Remember the great one, If I Fell? I'm going to sit here and just cry my eyes out from 1964 as we remember John Lennon on the Oldie Station. Coming up in just a few moments, it'll be the beginning of a gold rush. Another at least 3 great oldies in a row coming up.
WTRY's Gold Rush means more oldies back to back. The Oldie Station, WTRY. If I fell in love with you.
98 WTRY, the Oldie Station, where rock and roll never forgets. That's Derek Desmond and something or other. I never understood that song. All those years I listened to that, never understood a word of it. This guy I understand. Here's the king.
Are you tonight?
98 WTRY. Elvis from 1960. Classic. Are you lonesome tonight? We're hopefully keeping you company on this Saturday morning. 21 minutes after 8 o'clock. 8:21 with Chris. Welcome to a Saturday. Got a lot of good stuff going on. In just a moment, we'll pick out a name from the money card mailbag. Stick around for that. What else we got going on? The WTRY Hall of Fame. That happens Monday with Captain Bob O'Neill. He's going to count down the top 10 songs for October 10th, 1968. And if you graduated in that year, I know a few people that did, you'll have a chance to win a Red Apple AM radio from the New York, New England apple growers. That's on the WTRY Hall of Fame, Monday through Friday at noon on the Oldie Station, 98 WTRY.
Hi, Tom Bodett.
Participating locations.
Available at the following Red Cap Citgo stations: Smith's Automotive in Schenectady or Colony Garage, Albany.
Every year, call 371-8033.
The Weather Watch 98 forecast. According to WTRY meteorologist Tony Bazzano, mostly cloudy, breezy, chilly. Still 42 and cloudy at Weather Watch 98 WTRY, where now it's time to reach into our WTRY money card mailbag, which of course is in in the back of the room. I always leave it there and draw the name of another lucky person to win $98 in cash. I have the name of Diane Salvi of Troy, New York. That's Diane Salvi of the Collar City of Troy, New York. You have 30 minutes to call me at 476-WTRY to claim that $98 in cash.
98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. 8:28 with Chris. And Lou Tinney has news next at 8:30. After Johnny Rivers talks about the secret agent man.
There's a man. For Newswatch 98, a service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Well, I found the way to start a Saturday. And let's go to the phone and see if we can help out a person here in need. All right. Diane Salvi, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Troy.
Well, Diane Salvi, congratulations. You just won yourself $98 in cash.
Thank you.
With your WTRY money card. How's that to start out a weekend?
That's great.
Fantastic. What are you going to do with all that money?
I don't know. My kids will probably spend it for me.
Doesn't take long for that to happen.
No.
That's fantastic. Congratulations, Diane. You're our latest winner. What radio station specializes in oldies?
WTRY, of course.
Little bubble gum for breakfast. Remember the 1910 Fruit Gum Company? They were responsible for giving it that nickname, bubblegum music, from back in the 60s. 1968 to be exact. 1, 2, 3, red light. Now it's all green and go here with Steve Lawrence. 98 WTRY. Playing the heart and soul of rock and roll on the oldie station, 98 WTRY. I'm going to say hi this morning to our friends over at Capital Printing who weren't listening last Saturday morning when I said that. You better be listening this morning, guys.
Is fine.
Summertime, 1970. From the oldie station, 98 WTRY, one and only hit for Alive and Kicking. Tommy James of Tommy James and the Shondells helped write and produce that song right there. I think he's playing guitar in there, too. 9 before 9 o'clock, a Saturday morning. My name is Chris Warren. We want to congratulate Diane Salvi of Troy. She won herself $98 just a little while ago right here with our WTRY money card. Keep listening. If you've sent your money card in, be listening for your name, and you could call us back within 30 minutes. And just like Diane Salvi of Troy did, win your share of $10,000 in cash from the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Crystals. Coffee so rich. Shouldn't you try the switch?
The Weather Watch 98 forecast, according to W42 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
Your station, WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, and a big man in town, going back to 1964 on that one. 2.5 before Lou. 2 before Lou, I like to say it that way, but he's got the news for you coming up at 9 o'clock with Newswatch 98. But on this date in history, a couple of things happened. First of all, the Dodgers announced 30 years ago today that the team was moving from Brooklyn to Los Angeles back in 1958, and there are some people that still don't watch them on Monday Night Baseball. And on this date in history, Walter Hunt invented the common safety pin in 1849. Not knowing the design could be worth millions, he let the rights go for $400. Not only that, but he never figured out how to use it, and his pants kept falling down. Terrible, terrible, really. Dark day in history. Hello. Hi there. Okay, a little dip in power here in the studio. Did you see that happen, Lou? Okay, well, if you're ready, Lou, I'm ready.
The oldie station.
We'll do our thing.
980 WTRY for the Capital District.
Blast from the past. WTRY, the oldie station.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. 9 minutes after 9 o'clock, a time natural with Chris Warren on the radio till 10 this morning. And Peter, Paul, and Mary just blowing in the wind. 1963. 98 WTRY, just a classic tune. On all the classics are here, including yours truly. 12 minutes after 9 o'clock. Well, maybe not quite old. I guess I'm old enough to be an antique, but not quite enough to be a classic. 12 after 9, 42 still, and cloudy skies. And what can I tell you? They're even talking you might see some of the white stuff floating down this weekend. We trust not. Still got a good hour of music to come. Crosby, Stills, and Nash are up next. We got the Outsiders later this hour. Three Dog Night, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, and who knows who else could walk through the door. Almost anything can happen. Like last hour when we gave away $98 to Diane Salvi of Troy. She's our latest WTRY Money Card winner. You be listening. If you sent your card in, fantastic. You'll have 30 minutes when we mention your name. Very easy to do. And you get your share of $10,000 in cash. If you haven't sent your card in, just drop a postcard in the mail or, dig up that money card that's been lying there and send it on in because your chances to win are just as good as Diane Salvi of Troy. Congratulations to Diane, and thank you for being right where you are at the top right here. 98 WTRY.
When you hit...
It's Fun Radio, we play solid gold on WTRY.
Just heard from our friends over at Kluwitz and Troy. Somebody just drove in from Grafton where it is snowing. Yes, it is snowing in Grafton. Darn it, they always get it first. 98 WTRY, and a song Stephen Stills wrote for Judy Collins, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, 1969. It is 22 after 9 o'clock. My name's Chris Warren. We're having a good time here this morning. A lot of fun folks calling up. They're listening over at Southworth Machinery this morning. We appreciate that. I am related in a roundabout way. Not really roundabout way. My mom married the guy, the son of the founder of Southworth Machinery. And it works right into what I'm about to tell you here. I'm going to brag a little bit. I don't brag about myself, but my stepbrother, his name is Jeff Southworth, was on 48 Hours a couple of weeks ago on CBS because he had a hand in producing the following commercial, and I think you'll recognize it, and we're kind of proud of him in the family. So next time you hear this following commercial or the jingle in its many forms, you think of me, okay? No, that's not what I meant.
First name, Shirley?
It's Shirley.
Folgers Crystals. Coffee so rich, shouldn't you try the switch?
Weather Watch 98 forecast, according to WTRY meteorologist Tony Visano. Cloudy, breezy, 44 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station.
98 WTRY, the oldie station. I saw this group coming up here, the Outsiders, at the WTRY April Shower of Stars in 1966 at Proctor's in Schenectady. Remember that? Were you there? Time won't let me. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Never been to Spain. Three Dog Night. Back in 1972. Let's look back again a little bit here for some birthdays. Say happy birthday to Stephanie Zimbalist. Don't I wish? She's 32 today. She played Laura Holt, of course, on Remington Steele, daughter of Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. Sigourney Weaver, 39 today. Born in Los Angeles, of course, star of Alien, Aliens, and Ghostbusters, and a few others. And that big movie that's out now about the wild apes there. Sarah Purcell, remember her from Real People? She's 40 today. Chevy Chase, and You're Not, is 45 out of New York City. Let's see who else here. Jesse Jackson, 47 today. Twice two-time loser for the Democratic presidential nomination, but we don't hold that against him. And Rona Barrett, 52 today. Let's see who else. David Carradine's also 52. He was on Kung Fu. Remember that? Yeah, back in the mid. You don't remember that? I tried to put it out of my mind.
98.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY, where all the good songs have gone. Here are the box tops. 98 WTRY, Bad Finger from the old Apple days. And yeah, sure it is, day after day. I'm here week after week myself. We're just about to wrap up this week, but we'll be doing it again next Saturday morning, hopefully between 6 and 10. If the boss wasn't listening the last 4 hours, we're safe. 8.5 before the hour of 10 o'clock. Hey, good stuff happening this afternoon. We're going to return to the sensational 60s at New Scotland Avenue Armory, a benefit for the Albany Vietnam Memorial. Fun starts at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Lots of entertainment, prizes, giveaways. You going to be there, Captain Bob? Oh, yeah. All right. So we got 1960s prices on beer, soda, hot dogs, hamburgers. Bring the kids this afternoon. Then come on back yourself for the TRY Oldies Party tonight. We're going to spin all your favorite dancing oldies from 9 till midnight. Tickets are $10 in advance. Let's see, $12 at the door. Your ticket admission includes 2 drinks, a dog or a burger, and admission to the Oldies Party at half price. Get your tickets now. They're on sale at Cisco Foods and Drome Sound. Then, go over there and join us. We're going to help build the Albany Vietnam Memorial. And that happens starting this afternoon at 2 at the New Scotland Avenue Armory in Albany with the oldie station 98 WTRY. What? 98 Weather Watch forecast. According to our friend, we've got cloudy skies and 44 at 98 WTRY. Yeah, right here, right there.
Oldie station 98 TRY.
I'm going to get these buttons straight. I got 5 minutes to do it still. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, with this oldie getting on out of here in just a few minutes. Captain Bob's in the back making noise and getting ready to go on the air. He just came out of the other room where he was practicing on the wooden microphone, and he's all set, I'll tell you. I think I used that line last week, didn't I? We're in real trouble now. We'll do it again next Saturday morning around 6 o'clock or so. Both Lou and I will be here, smiles on our faces, marching around the studio in time. Here's Little Peggy March. I'll follow him.